going to show you guys how we prepare a black bear skull here at the shop to go into the beetles. This one here was freshly killed out of Canada. Usually this is how they'll come in from your taxidermist or whatnot. If you want to get a rug done or a full body mount, they cape it out, and this is what usually gets sent to us like this. So this back here, from basically this point, is the neck, and then this is the skull itself. So what we'll do first is we're going to remove this neck muscle right that goes right down through here, that first vertebrae that connects into the actual skull. So we'll just go ahead and cut right there. This is preferably the place that you want to cut them off if you do go bear hunting, instead of leaving all this meat on, so that way if you go to ship them to us or whatnot, it's a lot cheaper on freight for you, because this is probably about an extra 5 pounds of meat back here that you don't need to ship us. So right here, as you can see, we're starting to get into this cartilage, but right there's the center point of the vertebrae. Take your knife, turn it over. Alright, and then we'll cut same way here on the bottom side of the jaw. That cartilage that connects that piece there is real hard to get, so you got to really work your knife around in there on that first joint to get it to come loose. Alright, so this is what we got here. This is the first vertebra of the neck muscle, and then this is the back side of the skull here where the brain goes in there to that stem. So we'll get rid of that chunk of meat. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do here is we're going to take out the 2 eyeballs. Take a needle nose and just cut around that eye socket. Just be careful so we don't nick that bone area around the eye. You'll leave a mark. Alright, so the next thing we're going to do, since we got this meat up here and it's a little bit easier, we're going to go ahead and turn the skull over. What you have here is the bottom part of the jaw. What we're going to do is we're going to cut along this part of the jaw and this part. So stick your knife straight in on both sides, run it down to the center of that Y there, cut all the way back. What we're doing here is we're removing the tongue and all that tissue in the esophagus back here that all attaches. We're trying to get as much meat off as we possibly can for the beetles, so that way they just strictly go in and clean up all the little remaining stuff that's left. Then there'll be 2 small bones back here that kind of operate the tongue and everything. You don't need them, you won't see them at all. They're not actually connected to the skull itself, it's just cartilage and that holds them in there. We'll just snap them out. Alright, so there's the tongue of the bear we removed out. Okay, then we're going to go ahead and remove this outer cheek part and the bottom jaw that connects everything. This is kind of a difficult area here because that's where like all your tendons and everything meet that operate that lower jaw from the upper jaw part. And we'll take that, turn it there on the sideways. Right here, there's a bone that runs. You can kind of see it there. It runs all the way back. You take your knife, stick it in the edge of it. And we'll do the same on this side. You can kind of see that jawbone again right along through there. Go back to the ear hole, as you can see here. That's the bone that we're talking about. The next thing that we're going to do, we're going to remove the two upper chunks of meat off the back side of the skull here. Basically, the center point of this skull is right down there, and this is actually bone that we're touching here. This is all fat, or all meat. So you want to take your knife, start up here right behind the eye. I'm going to work our knife down real slow, not to nick it. Lay your knife sideways. As you can see here, I'm going at an angle. I'm never cutting in towards the bone, so that way you don't leave your knife scarred joints. Just work your knife all the way around. And then this part right here, where we get down about 3/4 of the way, is where we're going to run into the bottom jaw coming up into the top jaw, the skull and that part of it. I'll show you. It's kind of difficult. But this white cartilage or tendon here, that's actually where my thumb is pressing, is the top part of that jaw. So you want to be real careful, cut around that. And then lay your knife flat up against that edge of the bone. Just peel it off like that. And we'll do the same on this one here. And we're getting to that top part of the bottom jaw. As you can see there, that white tendon connects everything. Just peel that. Right along the edge of that bone. Lay your knife flat. Alright, so the only other thing that we want to do is maybe remove a little bit of meat in between this part here. Some of the advantages of cleaning these bear skulls with beetles is unlike a whitetail where we score the antlers themselves, on a bear here, what we do for the record books to be scored is you go from the tip of the nose here to the base of the skull, which is back here. They take this length measurement, and then what they do is they take this side, the outermost circumference of the side, from this point over here to this point, and then they add them together, and that's what you get for your score on your bears. But if you were to take this bear and put it into a boiling pot or whatnot, the biggest problems that you're going to have if this bear is potentially like in the records or anything like that to get it scored, is what you're doing is you're going to cook it to the point where it's going to get real loose and fragile, and you could potentially lose like 1/8 of an inch on your bears, and that could matter when it comes to the record books. Another great thing is then beetles will go in and get all the tissue out of the nasal area there, and then also pretty much about 90% of the time, I would say, if you're going to boil a bear skull, what's going to happen on these canine teeth up front here is they're going to split right down along here on the upper ones and the bottom ones. They're going to crack lengthwise. That'll happen almost 90% of the time. So if you take these bears and send them in to get them cleaned by beetles, that won't happen. Alright, so that's all we need to do here to prepare a bear skull for the beetles. The only other thing we're going to do is remove the brain later on, but that's all you need to do for preparing a bear skull.